And Prime Minister Narendra Modi, US President Joe Biden, Prime Minister of Australia Anthony Albanese, and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on Saturday convened for the fourth in-person Quad Leaders Summit in Wilmington in Delaware. During the meeting, they voiced concerns over coercive and intimidating actions in the South China Sea. In their joint declaration, the leaders of the United States, India, Australia, and Japan expressed opposition to attempts aimed at disrupting other nations' offshore resource exploitation activities. They also reaffirmed that maritime disputes should be settled peacefully and in accordance with international law. The joint statement, which is titled Wilmington Declaration, seeks to reaffirm their steadfast commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific that is inclusive and resilient. In his opening remarks, Prime Minister Modi also offered to host the Quad Leaders Summit in India in 2025. In fact, he also emphasized that a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific is a shared priority and shared commitment of the Quad.
हमारी बैठक ऐसे समय हो रही है जब विश्व तनावों और संघर्षों से घिरा हुआ है। ऐसे में साझा डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज के आधार पर क्वाड का मिलकर साथ चलना पूरी मानवता के लिए बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। हम किसी के खिलाफ नहीं हैं। हम सभी एक रूल्स बेस्ड इंटरनेशनल ऑर्डर, संप्रभुता और क्षेत्रीय अखंडता के सम्मान और सभी मसलों के शांतिपूर्ण ढंग से हल निकालने का समर्थन करते हैं। हमारा मैसेज साफ है, क्वाड इज हियर टू स्टे।
Our four countries are more strategically aligned than ever before. And today we're announcing a series of initiatives to deliver real positive impact for the Indo-Pacific that includes providing new maritime technologies to our regional partners so they know what's happening in their waters, launching cooperation between coast guards for the first time, and expanding the Quad Fellowship to include students from Southeast Asia. So I want to thank you all again for being here. You've come a long way to get here, and I appreciate it. And while challenges will come, the world will change because the Quad is here to stay.
Through the Quad, our four countries collaborate and we coordinate on the issues facing our communities but the region as a whole. Through the Quad, we leverage our significant resources and expertise to contribute in meaningful ways to dealing with challenges facing countries in the region. And we ensure that we assert the view that national sovereignty is important, that security and stability is something that we strive for, as well as shared prosperity in our region.
The security environment surrounding ourselves are becoming increasingly severe, and a free and open international order based on the rule of law is under threat. Under this backdrop, it is ever more important for us, the Quad, who share values such as freedom and democracy, to continue to demonstrate our firm commitment to our common vision of FOIP, the free and open Indo-Pacific, to the international community. In order to realize a FOIP, it is crucial to coordinate with the regional countries and to materialize our vision by concrete actions.
And my colleague Shinjoy Chaudhary is joining us on this story. Shinjoy, tell us about the key issues that were discussed during the Quad Leaders Summit.
Yes, when they talk about free and open Indo-Pacific and all this talk about coercion in the Indo-Pacific, it's very clear that the elephant in the room is China. So all this talk about coercion is actually about the fact that the Chinese have been very, very aggressive as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned, particularly the East China Sea, the Yellow Sea, and those areas. Now, the countries that are affected are all friends of India. For instance, Japan, which is a part of the Quad. South Korea, which is an ally of America and a friend of India. The Philippines, equally so, ally of the Americans, friend of India. So much also Vietnam, a friend of both America and India. So all these countries are affected by Chinese aggression. And why are the Chinese aggressive? Because there are resources there. There is oil there. There are other resources there that the Chinese want. And the Chinese are trying to push their maritime boundary by securing all these fake islands. So when you do that, when you make a fake island, what you do is you push your maritime boundary forward. And when you do that, more areas come under you, and those areas may have enormous amounts of oil and other resources. That is the point. Apart from that, Quad has made one or two very significant points. One, of course, is something Mirror Now has been speaking about in the past, that from now on, while the Quad remains a non-military organization, Quad countries will work together as far as maritime security is concerned, which basically means that Indian Coast Guard officials will be on American Coast Guard ships. The same with Japanese Coast Guard and Australian Coast Guard officials. They will be on American Coast Guard ships. This is for interoperability and could lead to more things. Besides that, the Quad is playing very significant roles when it comes to ensuring that countries in that area are protected. For instance, there's been a new initiative. Now, as a result of this, if there is, say, a crisis there, whether it's a weather-related, a climate-related crisis, like a tsunami or some kind of shipwreck, then all information that Quad countries gather will be passed on to friendly countries in the area. Besides, the Quad is working very hard to ensure that there is enough, let's say, medical supplies to countries that need it in the area. There is also efforts to work together on solar energy, on other energy issues, on things like that, on training and skill development. The Quad remains very, very focused on these things. The one new thing that the Quad is also looking at is space. And Mauritius would be a country which will be roped in to work with the Quad countries, which are, of course, America, India, Japan, and Australia, as far as the space sector is concerned. So enormous work is happening as far as Quad is concerned. But it has to be remembered that the elephant in the room is actually China. The Quad will never mention the Chinese, but that's the issue. The elephant in the room is China. It also has to be said that while Quad is not a military organization, all four countries are involved in what is called an exercise Malabar, which is an annual naval exercise. America and India began it. The Japanese are involved. The Australians are involved. But the Quad remains a non-military outfit.
All right, Srinjoy, please stay with us. So US President Joe Biden, who is one of the architects of the Quad grouping, was asked ahead of the Quad summit in Delaware if it would survive beyond November elections. The question was posed at the outgoing president, who is not seeking re-election, as he posed for a photo with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Australian and Japanese counterparts, Anthony Albanese and Fumio Kishida. Responding to the question, Biden turned around and placed a hand across Prime Minister Modi's shoulder, who is set to be the next Quad host, and said it will survive way beyond November. Remember, the US elections this November will see a Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump fight, with Biden not returning to the ring. Japan's Kishida, too, has announced that he won't seek re-election. Now, this implies that both the United States and Japan are set to be represented by new leaders at the next Quad summit.
President, will the Quad survive beyond the election in November?
What survive?
The Quad. Will it survive regardless of the outcome?
Way beyond November.
And on the sidelines of the Quad Leaders Summit, Prime Minister Modi held bilateral talks with US President Joe Biden at his residence in Delaware. The talks focused on improving US-India bilateral partnerships in areas of mutual interest. The two leaders also shared their views on regional and global issues, which included the Indo-Pacific region. Prime Minister Modi left the Biden residence following the talks and posted on social media platform X, noting that the talks were extremely fruitful. Prime Minister Modi and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also held a bilateral meeting. The two leaders reaffirmed their commitment to further deepen the comprehensive strategic partnership for mutual benefit, as well as for the peace, stability and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific region. Prime Minister Modi also met his Japanese counterpart Fumio Kishida and exchanged views to deepen bilateral cooperation further. In fact, Modi and Kishida reviewed the India-Japan relationship and talked about ways to expand the bilateral relations. Today, on his second day of visit, Prime Minister Modi will attend a community event and a CEO roundtable in New York. And Srinjoy Chaudhary continues to stay with us. Srinjoy, give us more details about the bilateral meeting that was held between Prime Minister Modi and Joe Biden, which Prime Minister Modi termed as an extremely fruitful discussion.
Yes, it's a fact that regardless of who is President of America and who is Prime Minister of India, the relations between America and the United States will remain strong. So Biden is not going to be President of America after the 20th of January. The elections, of course, are in November. But whether it is Kamala Harris, whether it is Donald Trump, who has been president before, India and America will continue to have good ties. That is the point being made. Also, America and India are working on a number of issues. The areas that India and America work on are extremely important. The issues that are actually very top of the line. Apart from strategic issues, apart from defense issues, there are issues now that relate to space. Very shortly, there is talk of Indian astronauts being on American spaceships. There are very strong economic ties. I mean, there is no dispute about that. There is also issues relating to science and technology and things like that. So as a result, ties between America and India will continue to be very strong. Of course, it has to be said that the Indo-Pacific and the strategic challenges of Indo-Pacific, which basically means the rise of China and the threat China poses because of its aggression, is something America and India are worried about, which is why the American effort at moving a lot of its military assets towards the Indo-Pacific has happened. India and America are aware of that. India and America are aware of the threat China poses, not only in the Pacific Ocean, in the East Pacific, to Japan, to Korea, to Philippines, to Vietnam, but also the fact that the Chinese seem aggressive in the Indian Ocean. You will see Chinese warships here. You will see Chinese spy ships here. In fact, at this point, there are 2 Chinese spy ships in the Indian Ocean. All of this is a sign of great aggression by the Chinese. And this is something President Biden and Prime Minister Modi would have talked about.
Right. Srinjoy, thank you so much for getting us all those details. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also pledged 40 million vaccine doses for Indo-Pacific countries and assistance with radiotherapy treatment and capacity building to help battle cancer during the Cancer Moonshot event held in Wilmington as part of the Quad Summit. Prime Minister Modi also echoed India's vision of One World, One Health and announced dedication of a grant of US $7.5 million to cancer testing, screening and diagnostics in the Indo-Pacific region. He noted the numerous efforts being made in India to battle sickness, including the world's largest health insurance scheme, to make medicines affordable and accessible to everyone. The Moonshot Cancer Initiative was first started in 2016 to accelerate cancer research by bringing together a community of patients, clinicians, advocates and researchers. US President Joe Biden revived the efforts in 2022 and also convened a cancer cabinet through the White House that can bring together federal agencies to help accelerate progress against cancer.